Welcome to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm Jaime Agostino, your host. On this show, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today on Financial Minds Meet the Experts, Jeff Stoner, Chief Strategy and Information Technology Officer, and Brent Shaffer, Product Strategy and Development Director for Vizo Financial, are with us today. Jeff, Brent, thank you so much for joining me today. Today's discussion topic is innovation. But before we get started, Jeff, could you share just a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
Sure. So I've been with Vizo and prior to that, been at Atlantic Corporate for almost 31 years, like 1 month exactly. I'll be here 31 years. Pretty much so worked everywhere in the organization. I started out as a member service rep and hopped around. The only place I think I haven't worked, which you'll agree was for good reason, was in marketing. So.
All right, thank you. Brent, what about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself for our listeners.
Sure. I've been with the corporate just a little over 22 years. It was actually 22 years last month, so just like a week or two ago. I've been through pretty much the entire IT side of the world at the corporate. Product strategy is still a fairly new position for me. Been more with application development and that side of the shop, but it's very exciting to kind of be starting this whole product from ground up. So
all right, great. Well, thank you both again for being here. Jeff, I'm going to get started with you. What is your approach to innovation?
So I think I'm going to go out the back door, around the barn, across the driveway to the front of the house to answer this one. So forgive me for that. But I think most people think of innovation as this, has to be really big, right? It has to be like, I invented time travel and that's innovation. And it is innovation. And I think the other thing people think of when they hear innovation, they think that it's a fundamental change to something. It fundamentally changes the way an industry works. Some examples there, I think, would be Uber and Lyft, rideshare, and how it impacted the taxi industry, right? And it did. It had a fundamental impact. But really, if you think about it, most innovation is an incremental change, right? A small improvement to an efficiency, maybe a big improvement to an efficiency, a small improvement to the way a product works, a good complement to helping enhance a product. And that is really where, 70 to 80% of innovation takes place. An example I think of that one would be like a Bazing, where it doesn't really change what a DDA share draft checking account is, right? It still works the same way. What it does is enhances it for the member, and makes it more attractive for them to use. So, and Strategy Core may disagree with me on this one, but to me, that's an incremental enhancement and incremental innovation. And those are important. And those base hits are really kind of what gets you to the goal line, right? Get you to the win. So I guess my approach to innovation is bring everything. We want to hear every idea. No idea is too small. No idea is too kind of out in left field for us. We want to hear it and we'll work through it. Otherwise, we're going to miss something important.
Okay, thank you. So Brent, great innovation sometimes comes from asking the right questions. What questions do you ask when looking at innovative ideas and changes to systems or partners?
yeah, honestly, I think this is a very subjective question. Depends on the person. I'm very context driven, so I ask a lot of why questions. Why was it designed this way? Why does it do what it does? Why does someone feel that it needs change? Or what's better? There are people that have a very futuristic mindset and can see the product and say, I see it needs to be this. I need to build from why things were designed the way they were, and I'll ask a lot of those kind of questions. Some people see that very negative, but I like to have a baseline. When it comes to new ideas, it's really throwing everything at the wall and seeing what resonates with the group. And when you're having an innovation session, it starts with really leaving those biases and risks at the door. And it's really rainbows and unicorn time at that point. You throw everything at the wall, see what works. you know, like I said, it's you kind of keep the regulations and security out of it at that point, because you got to have free flowing discussion. And then as things move down the line, then you pull those, those regulation security in. Um, but if you start there, a lot of things will die on the vine, because it just, we can't do, you don't want to hear the "we can't do that" when we're first talking about things. But in the end, it really all boils down to, what can our members use? If there's competitors doing it, you know, how is the solution we're going to come up with better than what they're doing, and why they work better for our members.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. I can't believe you said unicorns and rainbows. I mean, you're speaking my language there.
Oh,
So you're shocking me there with that one. So that's fantastic. So Jeff, what process and tools do you use beyond, brainstorming or whiteboarding? Are there other things that you bring into the mix?
So first of all, I think you're going to hear overlap here, because the whys are going to come back in this answer, I think. But there are lots of kind of programs out there and tools and techniques out there. We use a lot of methods that Feline developed for their innovation. IDEO is another company that does a lot of good stuff with kind of putting out sort of, this is how you can innovate. PDMA, product development, and stage gate, which is another kind of process that's used. So all those things are out there. We don't prescribe to a single one, right? We prescribe to bits and pieces of all of them to move through a process. But the real kind of, I think, first step, just to repeat what Brent said, is you got to cast a wide net. You got to listen and read. You got to visit websites. You got to go to conferences. You got to ask lots of questions, ask lots of stupid questions. I'm very good at that personally, but just ask, like, I don't get that, or why doesn't that work? And which gets me to the why. So my favorite tool is the 5 whys. It's kind of the toddler approach, right? So we're like, well, why? Well, why is the sky blue? Well, why? Well, why? Well, why? And generally, if you ask that of someone, and you give them time to give you thoughtful answers, like, till you get to the 5th why, you really get down to kind of, okay, this is the root problem that I'm trying to solve, or this is the main solution I'm looking to develop. So over that course of asking why, so why is it like that? Why is it like, you get down to, okay, this is really your problem, or okay, this is really what we're trying to develop for you. And then we can move forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Brent, how do you ensure that promising new ideas are not prematurely shot down and multiple perspectives are heard?
Quick answer to that is you don't. Um, and this goes back to, there's a Steve Jobs quote that on focus that fits this. It says, people think focus means saying yes to things you've got to focus on, but that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that are out there. You have to pick carefully. I'm actually as proud of the things we haven't done as the things I have done. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. So I think that fits like perfect. When I read this question, or when we talked about this, like, this fit. Um, I talk to new fintechs all the time, and there are innovations that I've looked at and feel like they're brilliant ideas. Like, they're just like, wow, how did you come up with that? But they're not there yet. They're either, it's an idea and they haven't been fully vetted out. There's really no traction in the marketplace. So it's really putting those things in a parking lot and revisiting from time to time. Um, there's one right now. I have a conversation with the CEO of this one company probably once every quarter, every 6 months. I think the idea is great, but there's so many risks involved that we're not ready for it yet. Somewhere down the road, I would love to see it bear fruit, but there's things like that is just there. And then if there's things that fit, then we'll talk to our members, we'll talk to our the relevant stakeholders. Then we'll run it up through the senior team and ultimately the board, and there's things that we should move forward with, and yeah, we will try to get multiple voices in to hear what's going on. And there's things that I thought were great, and they go through to the board level, and their board's just like, yeah, we're not interested. And it just happens, because I look at it through one lens, a a board member who's at a credit union is going to look at it through a little different lens. So, it's all about what brings the bring best value, and you can't get discouraged by that, or you know it could be tough because it's all about it's all part of the job is throwing 1,000 things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Okay. All right. So then, Jeff, how do you assemble a cross-functional teams to drive the innovation?
Yeah. So I think you have to invite everybody. You can't say, well, let's bring these people in. So every cross-functional team, generally people they settle into where they're comfortable, right? Where they have their strengths. And you need all of those strengths. You need all those perspectives. So it's kind of bringing all that group together and embracing the diversity that you have and encourage them to free flow, right? So you encourage them to do something called ideation, and where they're just coming up with ideas. And then the key to that is knowing, okay, when do we take this ideation and focus it down into something that's more innovation, right? So how do we get the group to coalesce around one topic that they all have passion for and move forward? And sometimes you think you're never going to get there, but honestly, it does. It happens. It just sort of naturally happens. They start to get comfortable with each other and get to know each other. And they really do. They sort of come around an idea of one of the 50, 100 things they came up with. And they start to come around this idea and say, you know what, we need to work on that. And it's amazing how because I don't think I'm that smart, but they do. People do. They want to be part of a team, right? And they want to work together, and they do. And I think everybody with our group, they all have common goals in serving the member, and so they find something and they concentrate in on it.
Okay. Well, following up to that, then, how do you measure progress on the new ideas?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, my first measure is how often we can fail, right? How quickly could you say no to 1,000 ideas, right? And fail quickly and fail forward. So part of progress is saying no to 1,000 ideas quickly and learning from those. Okay, next time I'm going to stay away from that area because that's just a waste of my time. They don't even have to say no to it. Saying that, oh, we made this mistake there, so if we adjust this moving forward, we won't make that mistake again. So part of it is that, and part of it is that steady movement. Then if it kind of survives that first thousands no's, right? If you're the one that gets through, it's steadily moving it through then it gets more methodical. Now it's looking at it saying, does it really meet our members' needs? Does it solve a problem for them? Is it feasible for us to do? Is it cost effective for us to do? We come to Jaime's group and say, is this something the members are going to be interested in? And it's kind of working through that process. But I think, ultimately progress is if we can bring something out that enables our members to better serve their members, to better improve their members' financial lives, then that's the win. Like that's the ultimate progress when that happens.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Brent, how are you fostering innovation at Vizo Financial?
Sure. So in the past, we had partnered with Filene. They had actually held a class through based on their I3 program for several members of the corporate. It walked us through, the arts of innovation from ideation basically to the whole process to the end, presenting the team's final ideas to senior staff. Some of those became projects and tested out with credit unions. So that was very very groundbreaking for us. It started our processes. Felt like it really got us involved. So some of our staff has actually been through the I3 program. We've tried our hand at running this process ourselves internally. Really good results until COVID happened. That kind of threw some wrenches in that process. We are looking on how to rebuild all of that to start over. We've also developed several smaller in-house trainings for staff. We're in the process of creating new classes this year that are smaller, half hour based to get people used to the idea of ideation and innovation and how they could play a role in it. Anyone in the corporate can play a role in innovation. So it's building on that. We also have ways for our employees to offer suggestions or problems with our group. And then when they offer them, then we work with those employees to either, be part of that project and work from ground up and help us, either look for um, solutions. Like Jeff said, it could be a very um, small piece of a puzzle that needs to be fixed. It's like, I just need this to happen. And, if we don't hear about it, we don't know how to help. So it's great that we've had several submissions. Um, some we're able to help with, some they kind of get pushed back a little bit, but we could come up with a different way to help that makes sense. Um, so all we try to get every member of our team involved. So it's through their submissions that then we can help them.
Okay. Jeff, kind of looking at the credit unions, how do you find the real hidden needs of your member credit unions beyond just their surface or basic needs? What process do you take to uncover the credit union's hidden needs?
That's really, really, really hard to do because just naturally, people are busy, right? And they're trying to get stuff done, and they know what's holding them up from getting stuff done. But seldom do any of us ever take this time to kind of sit back and break into that intellectually and spend hours to think about, well, why does that take me, right? So people have a hard time articulating to you, these are my pain points, right? They can tell you overall, this is my pain point. They can't tell you to that detail, but down to this is why it's my pain point. And I'll bring out the 5 whys again. That works very, very well. You don't always get that opportunity to have that discussion. It's easier to do that in a captive audience internally. So what we try to do is kind of twofold. We rely, for us specific at Vizo, kind of our pipeline of information comes from our corporate account managers. That have great relationship with our credit union members. Our credit union members share with them, this is where I hurt, this is where I need help, and they bring it back to us, and then we look to see, is there a solution we can provide? And honestly, sometimes we're not the best source for that solution. We can't be everything to everybody, or we're not going to be good at anything, right? So sometimes it's hard because we have to say that's not us. It's a win, I think, if we can say that's not us, but company XYZ might be, right? We don't always have that. We do look at a lot of fintechs that just don't fit with us. And what we try to do, and we did it just this spring, is if we find one that we say, this may have value to credit unions, but it really doesn't fit in what Vizo does, we try to make those available to our credit unions. And I think it was TechCon that we just did. Sorry, the name wouldn't pop in my head, but we just did TechCon, and it was great because we were able to bring fintech ideas that can improve people's financial lives to credit unions that don't fit with Vizo, but we still made them available to our members to look at. So that is the main kind of pipeline there. We rely on our corporate account managers, but we also look at the industry, right? Everybody, again, is very busy and the world changes very quickly. So we're constantly kind of looking out there to say, what is coming down the road that we need to be prepared for, so that when our members say, oh, I need that, we're already there, right? And an example of that, I think, would be instant payments right now. And you see the Fed working towards FedNow, which is an instant payment platform run through the Federal Reserve. One already exists through the real-time payments network with the clearinghouse. So we need to be ready for that, because we believe that that is going to be a fundamental need for credit unions to supply to their members, and we need to be ready for it when it gets here, and our members are ready for it.
The account reps, you mentioned them, myself, I know you personally as well. We hear a lot about the variety of financial industry disruptors, as what they're being called. What should a credit union be looking at to adjust to this fast-paced, changing environment within the financial industry?
Okay, so I'm stealing from someone. His name is Chris Oti, and he is with CU 2.0, which is like USO. And he just spoke at a risk conference. And I'm not going to get his quote right, but I loved it. It summed it up great. And really what we're talking about here are fintechs, right? So what we're saying is there are three types of fintechs. There are the fintechs that want to steal your lunch. They want to come in and disrupt the credit union and make the credit union obsolete. Then there's the fintech that wants to buy your lunch, right? So they want you to send your business to them and they'll pay you something for it, right? They'll buy your lunch, but they're going to take your member for that product. And a lot of times it's a lending product. So that's not always a good deal, right? And then there's the fintech that wants to eat lunch with you. And I said, okay, so that's perfect. I love the way you described that. So now here you have a fintech that wants to come in and partner with the credit union to work with the credit union to bring better and enhanced financial services to their credit unions, or excuse me, to their members. But at the same time, they want the credit union to win too, right? So it's mutually beneficial. And I think that's what we try to look for when we look at fintechs that we bring to like TechCon. And I think that's the key is when you're looking at a fintech, it's not always the enemy. Sometimes it is. It's not always the enemy. It's a matter of looking at it and saying, what relationship do they want to have with me, right? Do they want me gone? Do they want to pay me off to take something that I fundamentally supply to my members? Or do they want to work with me so I can enhance my members' financial lives? I play along with them. I have a win and they have a win too. And I think that's where you need to concentrate. And I don't have a magic bullet on how to recognize them up front, but you can usually figure it out pretty fast if you ask them kind of like, how do you see that? What? How will our relationship work? How will we work together? And you can get a pretty quick answer to that.
All right. Well, thank you, Brent, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Any final comments or thoughts for our listeners?
Open-ended questions. Final thoughts. Yeah, I think just be curious, right? Just look at things. Don't dismiss things. Look at it. Think about it. Consider it. But also don't be afraid to say no.
Okay. And I think Brent said it. Ask why.
Ask why, and I would say if there's for our listeners, if there's things they're looking for that we can help with, please reach out to your account manager, and we can work through ideas. We love that. So.
All right, great. Yeah. You can reach your account managers at accountmanagers@vfccu.org. So send them an email, give them a phone call, share with them what you're looking for, and they'll be in contact with these two. So thank you guys so much. Before we go, I just want to make sure everyone's aware of Vizo Financial. We're on social media. Not sure if you're aware of that. If you're not, now's the time to look into it. We post everything from our latest videos to our upcoming webinars, our new blog post on products and services. This podcast gets posted there as well. Follow us on Twitter at Vizo Financial and connect with us on LinkedIn at Vizo Financial Corporate CU. I hope to see you on the social side. So thanks for listening today, and I hope you all have a great day.